No, everybody gets into this stuff for different reasons. And I found there tends to be two straight up reasons. One is I loved the stuff and I wanted to find out what was real and what wasn't. And I had an experience and that got me hooked. I came from the fiction. I love this stuff. Let's find out if some of this horror stuff I love is real. Which angle did you come from? Or did you come from a third angle that I have not thought of yet?
Always that third angle. No, because I grew up in Boston. You can probably figure it out from the accent. And I lived one town over from Salem, Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. And so I spent a lot of time in Salem. So witches and anything that goes bump in the night was pretty much common fodder. Mm-hmm. So that got me interested in the paranormal field, so to speak. Like I said, in college, my educational background is in clinical psychology. So you talk with a lot of very interesting people, a lot of whom will say, I'm Satan, I'm Jesus Christ, I am, the Archangel Michael. Like I said, you meet a lot of very interesting people. And that always got me thinking, about the spiritual world. Are people really crazy, or is it just all of the rest of us that are crazy and they're actually sane?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always said this about Christians, that either they all know something I don't, or they're bat caca crazy. One or the other. I can't pretend to say which one it is, but it's one or the other. There is no in between on that one.
Well, right here, we're not just talking about Christians. We're talking about Crazy Larry, who's currently institutionalized, is correct, and everyone else in the world is crazy.
Right. Yeah.
I believe in Crazy Larry.
But I get that inspiration. Continue.
Yeah. So I always listen. I always had I did college radio, back in the day. And so I always liked doing radio. I love talking with people, because being in psychology, you do nothing but talk with other people all day. So the paranormal field was always around. And so I got hooked one time when the university I was at was doing, from the history department, was actually doing like a lecture at a local haunted hotspot in Boston. And so I said, that sounds something to do like on a Thursday night. Great. Let me get some, hit the pub first and then hit the pub later. And it was this amazing lecture. It was on history, which really didn't thrill me all that much. It was kind of boring, but they brought in like ghost stuff. I'm like, this is a great way to do history, is tell me the ghosts and then tell me the context of why we should be worrying about ghosts. And I said, this is actually, pretty darn cool. So years go by, and then like ghost hunting wasn't really a thing. No one, whipped out a K2 meter and started poking around in a cemetery. You just went to historic places and sort of poked around. If something happened, great. If not, then oh well. And I didn't really get into, quote, paranormal ghost hunting until they showed up, the plumbers, on TV. Right? That was like in the early 2000s.
Right. Yeah.
And so I said, I can actually do that instead. That seems much more fun, and kind of got hooked on it. And like I said, it got me interested and actually made me more skeptical than I was before, watching everyone doing it on TV. And like I said, then doing paranormal radio, I did radio in college and loved it. And then I bumped into a guy, again in Boston, who was doing a quote paranormal open house at a paranormal hotspot. And he was walking around with a remote mic. And I'm like, what the heck are you doing? Because he crashed into me and almost spilled my beer. And he says, I'm from blah, blah, blah radio. And I can't name it's a terrestrial radio station. And I'm like, oh, really? That's kind of cool. And I started talking about the equipment and all this. And I said, do you really talk about ghosts and stuff? He goes, no, but it's Halloween time, so we kind of have to. And I said, well, why couldn't you talk about that all the other times? Because ghosts are around, not just on Halloween. And he sort of looked at me like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. But there were really no ghosty radio shows around, except for Art Bell, for example.
Sure.
Right. And I said, that's interesting. Why can't I do that? And so, like I said, in 2010, going on 10 years now, I said, what the hell? Let's jump into the podcast field. And that's when the field was fertile for people starting up doing paranormal, live internet streaming radio shows.